Hyundam thinks, what exactly is that guy? Jiaka smiles. 5 Peak Mountains. On the next patrol, we see a merchant running to attack Jukha and shouts, how dare a mere bandit block our path? Prepare for your punishment. He strikes but Jukha easily dodges, and immediately counterattack by cutting the merchant's sword and placing his sword on his neck. The merchant begs and say that he has lost. Jiaka went on patrols from autumn to winter, but none of the escort's warriors in the merchant union were able to take his attack. The news of Jukha spreads as people start to put up posters about him in the neighboring towns, and rumors about the 5 Peak stronghold spread like wildfire. Tak seems surprised, as a lot of people gathered in their hideout, so he asks Hyundam, what on earth is happening here, Chief? Hyundam replies, I don't know either. What kind of situation is this? Tak responds, I think it's because rumors of Jaka have spread, and if we indulge these guys that just came, we'll have 25 of us. What should we do, Chief? Just give me a moment to think, Hyundam replies. 3 months later, the 5 Peak stronghold became a large stronghold quickly. They started to gain a name in within Henan province, and morale was on the rise for them. However, as the stronghold became bigger, there appeared others who also had their own plans. An elderly man is seen with his disciple, who had joined the Wufeng hideout with other motives. The old man asks, did you find out? And his disciple answered, yes, we need to take down number 7 and we're good to go. After that we just need to take out Chief Pong and Vice Chief Tak. The rest until number 6 won't last a single punch. Moreover, Chief and Vice Chief won't be a match for you. The man who just gave this report is number 29, Huang Yamyang, and the old man is number 26, Gumel Northern Sword Shim Yonggak. Shim thinks the report is strange, and wonders how weaklings like them get acknowledged as Green Forest. Huang asks, pardon, what's Green Forest? Shim yells at him that how could he not know about Green Forest, and he calls himself a mountain bandit, and proceeds to tell him that Green Forest is the dream of all mountain bandit. Beggars have beggar sect, and mountain bandits have Green Forest. Green Forest's command chief, heaven-destroying demon lord, is famous for being monstrously strong, and he's on par with even the leaders, the reputable Murim clans. And that's the reason why I, who was from the unorthodox sects, came here. If I become a part of the Green Forest, then I don't need to bow my head to the orthodox bastards. Huang apologizes and says, I'm sorry, I don't know much about the Murim. But, if it's as you have said, then it would be quite hard to be recognized as part of the Green Forest. Wouldn't that have been impossible for the chief and vice chief's level of martial arts? Could it be that Yon Jaka is more powerful than the rumors say? Shim answers, that doesn't seem to be the case, but I haven't seen him in action because they haven't gone on patrols due to the weather. Another elderly man enters the room and says, don't worry about that. No matter how powerful Yon Jiaka is, he won't be a match for the Gumel Northern Sword who's able to stand his ground against the 5 great clans' martial masters. Shim welcomes him and says, you're here. Do you have any good news for me? The elderly man proceeds to say that the only reason why the mountain Wufeng hideout is under Green Forest is because Green Forest was expanding because the Orthodox Alliance was also expanding. And because there weren't any notable strongholds in Henan province, it seems they got lucky and became a part of Green Forest. Shim is pleased to hear this and says, that means while they're Green Forest in name, they're actually just ragtag bunch of mountain bandits. The older man responds, yes, there's no need to look into this any further. They give people their rank based on sequence they joined the stronghold. I can't believe these guys could become Green Forest. Shim shouts, that's right, the Green Forest isn't a place for kids to play around. And this is evidence that they are just nobodies. Huang and the other disciples then bows and say, we'll be counting on both elders here. Shim replies, don't worry, after we are done cleaning up this place, we'll make sure you guys get high ranks. Excited, both disciples shouts, thank you. It's evening already. Number 10th can be seen washing some dishes while Jaka prepares some food. Then number 10th asks Jaka if he's heard about the people that recently joined them are requesting for a rank fight. Jaka reluctantly tells her that he's heard and what's about it. Then she proceeds to tell him to make sure he punishes them during the fight. Jaka asks her why, and also asks her if it's because they look down on her. She then tells him that that's not the case. She heard them mocking the chief by chance and saying that the chief's technique is learned from the streets. Jaka, after hearing this, gets furiously enraged, scaring the 10th sister, and breaks the table he was using to prepare some dishes. So he asks the 10th, who mocked the chief, but she tells him that she don't know because she only heard while passing by. Jaka angrily storms off saying that he'll get the answers from them directly. But as Jaka was about going into the room, he's then spotted by the 4th brother Hyo Dao, who calls Jaka and asks him where he's rushing to at this late hour. Jaka turns to him and tells Dao that he heard that some of the newbies were mocking the chief, and if that were true, he was going to rip their tongues out. But Dao asks him if he's going to kill the newbies that they worked so hard to pick out, and proceeds to tell Jaka that That's exactly what the chief was worried about. Jiaka is surprised to hear that the chief was worried, and Dal tells him that it's true and says, looking at you now, I'm also worried. We're worried that you'll turn all the newbies to vegetable at the rank fight. But Jiaka angrily shouts that he won't forgive anyone who mocks his sworn brothers. And Dal is relieved to hear this but walks up to him, holds him by the shoulder and tells him that they need to go back into the mountains once the snow is over and they would also need the newbies to be able to use their hands and legs. He proceeds to tell Jiaka to head back inside for now because at this rate he might catch a cold. Jiaka isn't pleased with this, but obeys and heads back inside. The next day at Five Peak Stronghold, also known as Mountain Wufing Hideout, Kingdom welcomes everyone gathered, and announces the reason for the gathering, which is because some people have requested for a ranked fight. He also urges whoever is interested in moving up the ranks by rank fights to participate in the fight and not miss the opportunity, because the Five Peak Stronghold don't usually accept rank fights. The ninth brother then asks Chul-sen if he's going to try again, which Chul-sen then replies, "Are you crazy? I won't ever try it again." Kingdom then announces that those who wishes to put up a challenge to step forward. The elderly men and their disciples steps forward and begins to mock the chief once again, calling him a nobody with a loud voice. Kingdom is confused, but proceeds to ask if these 5 people are the only challengers they have. He continues with the announcement and says that they can choose who they want to fight and get their rank. But starting from number 7 and above, they must fight each of them according to sequence. He also adds that the duel will proceed fairly and the results will be acknowledged without complaints, and now asks them to tell him who they'd like to fight. With a grin smile on Shim's face, he says that they are all aiming for number 1. Kingdom looks at him and asks, "Really? You won't regret it, right?" Old man Shim smiles in a mocking manner. He then proceeds to ask Kingdom why they'd regret it, and says that all 5 of them are notorious martial masters within the Henan province. He adds that how would any of them be scared of someone who used to be a drug peddler? One of the disciples mocks the chief Kingdom, saying, "Gosh, that's so scary," and laughs, while the other says, "How could we be defeated by the heaven and earth blade technique?" All these mockery and laughs is really getting to Tak, who calls them bastards and wants to go hit them, but Kingdom tells him not to do anything. Then Shim comes forward, standing in front of the chief, gathers up some spits in his mouth, and spits at the chief. He then proceeds to say that the weather is chilly today, and I'm feeling hungry, let's get this over with quickly. Shim's impudent behavior is getting to Jaka and he is running out of patience, so he begs the chief Kingdom to please let him make an example out of them. The chief then calmly says that they'll go by sequence that was decided. He then calls Jaka, who responds, "Yes." The 2 elderly men, still acting cheeky, tells them that they seem to be putting all their trust in that brat, and the world will soon know that his skills are overly exaggerated. As Jaka steps forward, Shim suspects something ominous as he stares. Jaka steps forward with massive aura emanating from his entire body. The 2 elderly men looks like they are seeing death right in front of their eyes, and frightfully asks each other what is happening. Then Jaka, filled with rage, says that he thought he was going to die of pent anger. He calls at them and asks, "Which of you fucker wants to get beat up first?" Everyone watches as Jaka walks forward. Jaka stands in front of them and asks, "Who wants to go first?" They all seem to be afraid at the sight of him and couldn't decide who's going first. One of the disciples then suggests that the elders go first, but Shim, scared as fuck, tells him that it doesn't seem right for the elders to go first and it wouldn't look good on them. The other elderly man also agrees with Shim and shakingly says that it's normal for lower ranks to go first. The disciple is really scared and mutters to himself that wasn't what the elders said before, so he asks them who's going first. The disciple tells both elders that his stomach has been feeling unwell since. Only by looking at Jaka, his instincts is telling him that Jaka is dangerous, and thinks he needs to observe the situation first. While the disciple is still in his thoughts, one of the other disciples pushes him forward, which automatically makes him the first contender. He seems scared but tries to put up a bold face. He sees Jaka as a giant that's ready to devour him as he feels the unbelievable bloodlust from Jaka. He tries to encourage himself and tells himself that there's no need to turn back now because he doesn't want to get a lower priority for the ranking later, and tries to think of a way to actually fight Jaka. He comes up with a plan to make Jaka fight with his bare hands because he thinks that Jaka is only good with a sword. So he tells Jaka that since they are not enemies, then they should determine the victor with just bare hands. Jaka accepts. Wang looks at this as an opportunity and plunges to strike Jaka, but was instantly defeated with a single uppercut by Jaka, which sends him flying and crashing into the walls. The 2 elders and the disciples are wowed by this. Jaka, with an enormous bloodlust, says who's next. Then the second disciple steps forward and introduces himself as Yom Sweong and requests to also fight with just fists as well. And he is immediately knocked out by a single punch to the gut by Jaka. The third guy steps forward and introduces himself as Hwang Yamyang, and unlike the previous two, he requests to fight with weapons. Jiaka tells him to make sure he won't regret that, and finishes him off with just a single strike. He gives the remaining two a killer look and says, "Next." Both elders realizes that Jiaka is way stronger than they thought, because he just took all three of their disciples out without breaking a sweat. Jiaka asks them what they are doing and asks them if they are not willing to fight anymore. Shim tells him to give them a bit of time to decide who's higher in rank between themselves, and Joka tells them to do whatever they like and step up. The second elder thinks Joka is just a fucking brat who has gotten very arrogant, but also acknowledges the fact that the boy is strong, and plans to use a secret move against Joka. As he steps forward, he brings out a hand fan and introduces himself as betrayal, and says that he won't use a sword against someone who's in the same stronghold as him. And Joka ignorantly says that he won't use his sword either. Betrayal seems excited and gives a devilish smile, because he thinks he's got Joka hooked. He rushes to strike Joka with his fan, but Joka didn't move. He strikes, but Joka was unable to evade his attack and blocks it instead. This makes Beak think he has the upper hand in the fight, so he mocks Joka and asks him how he's unable to keep up with a fan. Shim seems pleased with the fight so far and calls Beak a cunning old fox, and explains how Beak used that fan to become a notorious demon in Henan province, and say that fighting Beak is as good as committing suicide. So he thinks Shim will win and there will be no need for himself to fight. Jiaka don't seem to have taken any damage from the multiple hits he took head-on by blocking only. He looks at Beak and says, "That wasn't a regular fan, huh?" Beak, about to strike Jiaka again. Acting almighty, he tells Jiaka that it seems like he wants to receive some beating, but stares and reflects on the fact that his fan can crush even boulders. But there seems to have been no impact on Jiaka after taking multiple hits from him. Jiaka calls him old fart, and from nowhere, Jiaka's fist appears in front of Shim's face. Jiaka, before landing the blow, asks him if he doesn't know what a fair fight means, then proceeds to land a very powerful and damaging blow to Beak's jaw, which sends him flying through the place. Everyone watching, including Hyunnim, are shocked at the mere sight of the strength of that single punch. Jiaka pauses and tries to calm down. He picks up his sword and asks Shim if he's going to use a sword. Shim thinks carefully before responding, because he has just witnessed Jiaka defeat Beak so easily, and he's also more stronger than the rumor says. While Shim is still in his thoughts, Jiaka drags his sword on the floor and walks slowly towards Shim. Shim shouts, begging Jiaka to wait, and says that he doesn't have any intention to continue. He then proceeds to say that it's hard to determine who is stronger between him and Betrayal, but however he doesn't think he needs to fight at all. Jiaka angrily says, "Hey old fart, sear this into your mind. If you dare mess around with my brothers again, you'll die the next time, get that?" Shim thinks this is so humiliating, and not only that, Jiaka is also speaking so informally to him. His thought gets interrupted by Hyunnim, who laughs at him and tells him that they got what they deserved, and Shim is still in disbelief that he'll have to serve the chief and his vice as his superior, because he thinks they are both idiots. But Jiaka interrupts his thought and asks for his answer from the previous question, and Shim shamefully says, "Yes, I'll work hard to serve all of you." Hyunnim then makes a mockery of Shim's situation and says to Jiaka, "Oh, damn, what do we even do if you took care of all of them all alone?" Jiaka also plays along and says he's sorry and laughs. Shim bows his head as Jiaka and the rest of Mountain Woofing Bandit walks away. Hyunnim then asks Jiaka what he wants to eat, because he's sure Jiaka must have been hungry from all that fighting. Jiaka then tells Hyunnim that he'll like to have whatever he's having, and they both laugh and walk away. Shim feels so humiliated and promises himself to pay them back for the humiliation. Hijia Village, Nanyang Merchant Union. A messenger is seen running towards a building, as he pushes people aside and shouts that he needs to meet with him. And we see a man sipping hot tea. The messenger arrives and shouts, "Master, there's big trouble. The rumors we were worried about are true." He then proceeds to tell his master that Shim Yonggak and Beak Jio were both seen coming out of the Five Peaks stronghold today, but his master don't seem to be worried. He then proceeds to tell his servant that if the world finds out that 2 of 3 great demons of Henan province joined the Five Peaks stronghold, they will experience another spurt of growth they won't be able to stop. The messenger also adds that there were a lot of merchant union that were affected by the growth of the Five Peaks stronghold in the autumn that just passed. The master seems to be having a good time, as he thinks this is all interesting. He then asks the messenger for who among Beak and Shim became the chief. The messenger then tells him that, about that, the chief is still Poong Yoncho, who uses the heaven and earth technique, and based on the rumors he heard, both Beak and Shim lost in the rank fight. The master, whose name is Lee Muryong, says that's impossible and says that he's sure that the information the messenger heard is wrong. The messenger then adds that the Five Peaks stronghold have already grown past 30 men in strength, and now they also have both Shim and Beak in their ranks, then asks for what should be done about the situation. Please, if you're enjoying this video, like and subscribe so I can be motivated to do more. Thank you. The master then asks if he has anything else to say because he thinks the situation is very good. He proceeds to say that he's always been bothered by Beak and Shim and he loathed being called one of the Henan province great demon alongside the two of them, because he never saw them as his equal. He then adds that the Nenyang Merchant Union will no longer allow the Five Peak Mountains bandits to wreak havoc anymore, because according to him, the Five Peak Mountains bandits have crossed the line. He then proceeds to say that they'll use this chance to get rid of the bandits and the two old gizzers, as this is a great thing for them. But the messenger adds that they are not people that should be underestimated. Li Muryong assures him that it's all right and asks that he have some trust in the Nenyang Merchant Union. He also adds that since the bandits are 30 men, they themselves at the Nenyang Merchant Union have 3 times more than the bandits. Five Peak Stronghold. The place is peaceful. Jiaka is seen outside polishing his sword. Then one of the bandits comes before him and offers him some water, which he gracefully accepts. As the bandit hands the water to Jiaka, he tells Jiaka that he was really surprised to see him easily take down one of the Henan province great demons, Beak Jiao. But Yon Jiaka tells him that it was nothing much and Henan only has weaklings. The warrior then says that aside and asks him why he's making his broadsword stand up like that. He then proceeds to tell Jiaka that in the past, people used to say that martial masters are able to use a mere leaf to cut people, and says to Jiaka that seeing the way is shaping his sword is what made him remember those words. These words catches Jiaka's interest, and now he's curious to know more because he's never heard of that before. But the warrior thinks he has said something useless, thanks Jiaka for his hard work and leaves. But those words didn't leave Jiaka's head because he thinks it's incredible that a martial master can cut a person with just a leaf. He also wonders when he can become skilled enough in the martial art to do that, and wonders if someone like that exists. Then he'd like to meet the person. It's a cool evening outside. Some bandits were sleeping while some were on watch duty. One of the guys on watch heard some sounds from outside the stronghold and proceed to go check it out. He gets there so tired and unbothered, but upon getting there, he's surprised with the terrifying sight of fire. He runs back and throws away his flame touch. Lots of flame arrows are being fired at the stronghold, and shouts as he runs back, fire arrows, and continues to shout, it's an enemy ambush, as he runs away from the burning fence. Jiaka turns back due to all the noise and shouting, and sees all the commotion. The intruders kept firing fire arrows at the fence. Jiaka is confused as to why someone would attack them, and shouts, damn it. Kingdom rushes out as he hears all the noise and commotion. He orders everyone to stay calm and to also prepare for battle. One of the warriors rushes to tell him that at this rate, all their outer walls will be burned down, and proceeds to say that he'll go out to fight the intruders and put out the fire. But the chief pauses and thinks for a while. He remembers that there is only one entrance and exit to the Five Peak Stronghold, and if they go outside, they will become sitting ducks for the enemies waiting outside, and they would be no different from rabbits smoked out of their den by fire, running straight into the hands of the hunter. He laughs and calls the enemies idiots, saying he figured that they probably weren't expecting him to be so smart. So he gives the order that no one is allowed to go out and they should all maintain distance so that the fire don't get to them, and also informs them that the plan is to build a new wall. Everyone hurries in building of the new wall, but Jiaka isn't going to just sit and let the intruders disrespect them like that, and he's really angry that someone would dare set fire to their stronghold, and promises that whoever it is will pay dearly. All the burning is over and smoke covers the entire place. The leader of the merchant union who lead the attack is impressed with the fact that even though the Five Peak Stronghold are just mere bandits, none of them tried to escape, and even after so many fire arrows were fired, although he thinks it doesn't change anything, because according to him, the result would be the same. He orders his men to bring down the burnt fence, but as they bring it down, his 2 right-hand men were getting excited because they think their leader is truly amazing for coming up with such an idea to attack using fire, as that would make them not to lift a single finger to destroy the stronghold. The leader, Li, gives a proud smile and says that once the outer walls are gone, they'll be able to destroy the bandits easily with numbers. But he's shocked as the burnt wall comes down, and questions when that was done. The smoke clears out, and all of the Merchant Union members are shocked to see that the Five Peak Stronghold have already put up a second wall amidst all the burning and smoke. So they ask the leader, Li, what the next step would be. Li is angry at the sight of this while both his right-hand men mutters between themselves. One of them says that the plan has failed, and the other one shuns his colleague, asking him to shut up unless he wants to die because Li is a very prideful man. Li tries to act cool as if he already anticipated what just happened. He orders everyone to stay calm and says that it appears that the bandits have used their brains. He proceeds to tell every of his followers that he will employ other planned strategy. One of the bandits from the Five Peak Stronghold, watching from a small hole in their wall, sees Li pull out an axe from his cloth and begins walking towards them. With fear on his face, he announces to everyone that a guy with an axe is approaching and asks Hyunam for what their next move would be. Hyunam asks him if he's sure the information he passed is correct about the person approaching alone, and he affirms that it's correct and that the person approaching only has an axe in his hands. But Hyunam orders everyone to not yet let their guard down. Shim also peeps from a hole in the wall and wonders what that person approaching is up to, because he don't think someone in their right senses would actually strike the wooden wall recklessly with an axe. Wang also thinks the same and says that he would have to be a complete idiot to actually do something like that, unless he has something else planned. Jiaka is losing his patience and says the entire situation is frustrating. He tells Shim to step aside so he can go take a look for himself. But Shim is against this idea. Shim looks closely at who's with the axe and approaching recklessly. At that moment, he realizes that that man outside is the Heavenly Swordsman, Lee Muryang. Shim is troubled and announces to everyone that they are up against the Nanyang Merchant Union, and adds that the man approaching is the leader of the Nanyang Merchant Union, and also one of the Henan's 3 great demons. Jiaka says, "Is that so?" He pauses for a while and says, "So the enemy leader is in front of us, huh?" Lee stands right outside of the fence and stares at it, and as he's about to strike the fence, he angrily shouts, "How dare you? How dare you bandits mock me?" He strikes the fence with a martial art technique. As he shouts, "A stupid wooden wall trying to stand in my way," and says that a single strike from his axe is all he needs to take down the stupid fence. His axe easily penetrates the fence, with a very scary smile on his face. He laughs because he was right about being able to bring down the fence with just his axe. But at that moment, Jiaka comes destroying the entire fence, and Lee tries to protect himself from the falling wood pieces. Jiaka lands in front of the multiple broken woods and Lee asks him who he is. But Jiaka's response is also a question, so he angrily asks Lee if he's the leader. Lee is surprised to see that the person addressing him is just a kid, and he immediately tries to cut down Jiaka with his axe. But Jiaka blocks his attack with a single swing, wielding his sword with just one hand. Lee is astounded by Jiaka's strength, so he retreats temporarily and poses for his next strike. As he lands, he tightens his grip on the axe. At that moment, he realizes that his body went straight into defense mode just after a single strike from Jiaka's blade energy, and thinks Jiaka's strength is unbelievable. He then looks at Jiaka and says, "I see." Jiaka, filled with rage, walks towards Lee, and Lee asks him if he's the bandit swordmaster of the 5 Peak Mountains. But Jiaka didn't respond, so Shim says that he didn't expect him to be so young. And the only words that came out of Jiaka's mouth are, "Is that important?" Jiaka is ready to kill, and tells Lee that the only thing important now is that he just set their house on fire. Jiaka proceeds to tell him that he's being stupidly petty for using fire arrows despite having an advantage in numbers. And Lee disgracefully tells Jiaka that this is known as the fire attack strategy. Jiaka tells Lee that he has no idea of what he's talking about, and asks him how he's going to compensate for all the damage caused. Lee shouts at him, asking him why he'd ever consider doing something like that, and calls him an idiot. He points his axe at Jiaka and says, "You guys established yourselves on 5 Peak Mountains, plunder others, and made a notorious name for yourselves, and that's why I'm here to represent Henan Province to subjugate all of you." Jiaka responds by telling him that they never stole nor took from others, and that they simply collected toll fees. But Lee insists and tells Jiaka that's the same thing, and asks Jiaka if he actually thinks that him and his bandit group own the entry of 5 Peak Mountains. Jiaka instantly says, "Yes, that's correct, it all belongs to us." Lee tells him that he's being so ridiculous, but Jiaka cuts his talk and asks him why he's talking so much. Lee is sweating, and tells Jiaka that he sure do have lots of confidence. He proceeds to ask Jiaka if he thinks he'll survive after provoking him, and also adds that he don't know how Jiaka was able to defeat Shim and Beak, but he's stronger. Jiaka couldn't care less about what Lee has to say and asks him when they are going to start fighting. Lee, filled with frustration, calls Jiaka an impudent brat, throws away his axe, and unsheathes his sword. He tells Jiaka that he's going to teach him some lessons on manners, but Jiaka reluctantly tells him to do whatever he wants. This infuriates Lee, so he tells Jiaka that he won't let his guard down like Beak and Shim, and he won't go easy on him even if he's just a kid. Jiaka smiles and tells him that everyone says that same thing, and also urges him to make sure he doesn't let his guard down, because he hopes for an interesting fight. Lee is really mad this time and rushes to strike Jiaka, calls him a brat, tells him that it's too late now, even if he begs and cries. They both run towards each other to deliver powerful blows. Lee devises a plan to not go with any variation, and use his strongest move to end the fight with just one blow. Jiaka looks amazed at the sight of Lee's technique. Lee creates multiple shadow clones and they all attack Jiaka at once. Jiaka is impressed and says the fight is far more interesting than he thought. He easily blocks Lee's attack, because he's able to tell the real attacker from the shadow clones. Lee is dumbfounded by this and wonders how Jiaka is able to block all his attacks that easily. Jiaka gathers some momentum and plunges, and delivers his own strike to Lee, which Lee barely managed to block. He could barely stand his ground after blocking the attack. Jiaka commends him and tells him that he's got an interesting technique too. Lee is disgusted by the words Jiaka used to describe his technique because his unchanging noon sword technique is Mountain Huasek's martial art, and there is no way a mere bandit could block it. Lee, frustrated, yells at Jiaka, asking him who the hell he is, where he's from and what martial arts he uses. Jiaka smirks in triumph and tells Lee that he doesn't have anything like where he's from. He proceeds to tell Lee that his martial art is the demon-slaying blade technique. That second brother Tak taught him personally. Lee is lost for words because the demon-slaying blade technique is something that's learned in temples. Jiaka tells him he's correct and asks him, "Isn't that awesome?" and tells him that no one has been able to last more than one move so far, and says, "You're not bad." Jiaka continues and says, "I also had quite a bit of fun seeing your technique. Can I try it?" Lee thinks Jiaka is mocking him with that statement. He tells Jiaka that he's way too arrogant and he can try to copy the technique if he thinks he can, but also tells him that the unchanging noon contains thousands of changes and it's not some third-rate blade technique that a common bandit can learn easily. Jiaka smiles and proceeds to copy the technique by also making shadow clones of himself, shocking everyone present. Jiaka is performing the exact same move. Lee looks so shocked because he didn't think Jiaka could ever copy the technique. Unchanging Noon is the last move and the mystery of the 6-combination sword technique of Mount Huasek, the ultimatum of stillness. It might look like a single stab, but thousands of changes can be found within it. The 6-combination sword technique is the foundation of Plum Blossom sword technique. In Mountain Huasek, the 6-combination sword technique must be taught to all disciples of the main sect and external disciples. Even disciples of the main sect have a hard time understanding that mystery. But Lee Muryang was able to understand it despite being an external disciple and became a martial master who took Henan province by storm. All the effort he prides himself on was destroyed in a single second. Lee Muryang, still in disbelief, shouts, "That's impossible. That's not a technique one can copy from seeing it once." He tightens his grip on his sword in preparation to receive Jiaka's unchanging noon attack. He tries to calm himself because, according to him, he knows the unchanging noon technique better than anyone else. Lee looks confident because there can be only one real body amongst all the shadow clones, and points out the one all the way back as the real body. While waiting to only dodge the one he pointed out as real, he is struck by the first clone, and another one, and the next one. At that moment, Lee Muryang realizes that all the clones were all real. Before Lee Muryang bleeds out and pass out, he mutters, "This isn't just the level of imitation, he has surpassed my level," and pass out cold. It all seems unclear to Jiaka as to why Lee fell. Of the 6 combination in the technique, Jiaka was only able to perform 3 combinations before Lee passed out. Jiaka is not happy about this and says, "What the hell? How can you fall before I'm even done with the technique?" Jiaka moves closer to Lee and wonders if he fainted, then proceeds to say to Lee's lifeless body that it's such a pity because I'll just have to take your head like this. Lee wakes up for the fear of his life, begging Jiaka to wait and that he can't move his body, and promises to never again come near the 5-peak stronghold, and pleads really hard for Jiaka to spare his life. So Jiaka asks, "What if you come again?" Lee promises Jiaka that it'll never happen again and swears on his right arm to keep his promise. Jiaka walks away, telling Lee Muryang to better keep his promise. The bandits of the 5-peak stronghold all begin shouting in celebration, "Woa, Jiaka won! We won!" They all gather Jiaka, and Hyunam asks Jiaka if he's injured, and congratulates him on his victory in the fight, also asking him if that technique was a clone technique. Lee is being carried by his guys when he fearfully turns back to look at Jiaka one last time, and says, "I can't believe this, he's unbelievable strong." While the bandits celebrate and the merchant group retreats, a man is seen observing the whole situation from a distance. The man appears to be a spy for one of the other merchant groups. Hyunam jokingly asks Jiaka how he could possibly destroy those wooden walls that they all went through so much trouble to build. At the Mansu Merchant Union, a man is giving his report on recent events and says, excluding the smaller merchant union around Henan province, 3 of the bigger merchant union went down one by one. Even the Mansu Merchant Union and the Nanyang Merchant Union that shared the Henan province, were defeated, and you could say that there's been a huge shift in power balance. Another merchant that's also present in the room seems really upset by these brief, and wonders if the Heavenly Swordsman was really defeated, and to think that a common bandit that young would be that strong. The merchant giving the report continues his brief, saying that rumors have already been spread to the hooligans of Hejia village, and adds that with this, 5-peak stronghold numbers will probably grow even stronger. One of the 3 men in the room then tables a suggestion that it will be best if they strike now, before the 5-peak mountains members increase in numbers, and also proceeds to state his major concerns. which includes the fact that Jaka might be a disciple of the Green Forest Commander-Chief, the heaven-destroying demon lord. And besides that, it doesn't make sense that a common bandit that young is that strong. One of the guys in the room agrees with the other and adds that Jaka came during the time when Green Forest was trying to expand. So it could be true that Jaka is a disciple of the destroying demon lord. And if truly that's the case, then it would be best if they stayed away from him. One of them, whose name is Sang Muchan, the leader of Mansu Merchant Union, seems very pissed from hearing that statement, and angrily smashes the table before him, shouting, "How can we run from mere bandits?" With his bleeding arm, he says, "Do you know what would happen if we did that? Manso Merchant Union would be the laughing stock of all Henan," and asks his subordinates if they think a merchant union that's a laughing stock has any future. His subordinates then asks him for what could possibly be done, because himself and the leader of the Nanyang Merchant Union, who was recently defeated by Jaka, are on the same level when it comes to martial arts skills, and asks him if he has any other way to deal with Jaka. Sang Muchan pauses and thinks for a while. He stood there frustrated because he knows that there's really nothing he could do, because Jaka is on a whole different level. And he's grateful that he looked into Jaka before going after him, if not himself would have ended up like Lee Muriong did. It pains him so much that he can't do anything because Jaka is way too strong, and wonders if Jaka is really the disciple of the heaven-destroying demon lord. He concludes his thoughts and comes up with an idea to go to Huguang province, which shocked everyone present. He then asked them to bring him a precious Longjing tea leaf that they got from West Lake. But someone amongst the people present questions his idea to go to Huguang province at such desperate time, and tells him that there would only be more unrest within the merchant union if he leaves. Sang Muchan sighs and calls the subordinate who just questioned him a fool, and asks him if he's forgotten what's in Huguang province. The man pauses and tries to recollect what's in Huguang province. He remembers that the Wuding Mountain is located in the Huguang province. Sang Muchan smiles because the guy is correct, and he says that him being an external disciple, he's someone who learned the Wuding martial arts, and with a cunning smile, tells everyone present that his master is the Wuding sect's elder, Sage Chun Jai. They all seem surprised to hear this because Sage Chun Jai is a famed martial master even in the Wuding sect, plus he's known for being good at teaching. The leader confirms all they have said, saying yes, that's correct, and tells them that they are finally starting to use their brain. He proceeds to tell them that Wuding sect is one of the 10 great sects, and the direct disciples of those places are at a level they themselves can't even begin to imagine, and says that he just needs to ask the master and get one of the disciples to come back with him, and that would be the end for Jaka because he will be as good as dead. He continues talking and say that even if Jaka is the disciple of the heaven-destroying lord, he's too young and inexperienced to be fighting against a direct disciple of the Wuding sect, and adds that if Jaka falls, then the 5-peak stronghold will also fall immediately. Out in the city, we hear a shout of excitement in a restaurant, which follows up with a talk of appreciation. This really feels like a dream, all these food, and another voice replies saying she heard that the restaurant is the best in Hejia village, and that the place does look different. It's the 10th sister of the Mountain Wufeng hideout, Kion, and a lady. They are both staring at beautiful dishes and discussing about food when the 10th sister says that it has always been her wish to order everything she wants before she dies, and her wish has come true today. But the other lady asks her if it's really okay, because it all seems really expensive. Kion tells her that it's okay and that she doesn't need to worry about it, and says, "Look who we came with." Then shouts, "The strongest in Henan province, Yon Jiaka." Shy Jiaka scratches his head and says that can't be true while Chief Hyungdam is around. But the ladies tries to convince him to believe it, and tells him that even the children thinks that he's the strongest within the 5-peak stronghold. Jiaka says he knows that, but he personally still think the chief is the strongest, and tells them that those comments are exaggerated, then quickly moves his attention somewhere else, which is his cloth. He comments that the cloths are all too expensive and asks if it's really okay to buy those, because he thinks since that chief is getting more people joining them now, they should be more thrifty to be able to afford to feed everyone. But the ladies assures him that it's alright and tells him that he's been earning so much money for the stronghold so he earned it. The new lady also adds that everyone at the stronghold is probably thankful to him, and proceeds to tell Jiaka that the reason why they are able to enjoy such luxuries is because second brother Tak gave them a ton of money and asked them to make sure he have a good time, and that brother Tak also told them to make sure he eats until his stomach bursts, and dress him in the best clothes. Jiaka is surprised because it doesn't seem like the second brother would actually have said that. But the 10th gets up out of excitement and tells him that it's true, and proceeds to tell him that the second brother said that he wants Jiaka to enjoy the whole day today before going back. Jiaka, excited, says, "Shall we eat until our stomach bursts then?" He then focuses on the new girl and asks her who she is and what her name is, because he's never seen her before. She blushes and introduces herself as Sobik and tells him that she recently joined a week ago. Kion tries to make her shy and playfully says, she's pretty, isn't she? The whole stronghold was in ruckus because of her, and says that Sobik is also famous for being pretty in Hegia village. Gyaka is wowed and asks her, really? Because she's shy about saying things like that in front of Gyaka. She tries to deny it all and says that it's not true and she isn't famous. While they eat and discuss, a man seems to be standing at a distant corner watching them. Kion tries even harder to make Sobik more shy and says, don't lie, everyone knows your name though, and adds that she heard that Sobik was only able to get accepted into the Five Peaks stronghold because of her popularity. Sobik tries to talk but is lost for words because of how much she was blushing. While still at their table eating and discussing, the creepy man walks towards their direction. Gyaka is curious to know what the 10th means by her previous statement. The 10th answers, telling him that Sobik ran away after some famous hooligan threatened her to marry him. The creepy man is already at their table and interrupts their talk and with a creepy smile says, whoa, that happened. I already told you to look for me if you ran into any kind of trouble. Standing behind both ladies, he says. So that's why I haven't been seeing you around, huh? Do you know how worried I was? Sobik is scared and the Kion sits confident and couldn't give a shit about what the huge guy with a creepy smile has to say. Full of pride and confidence, she gives him the side eye and asks Sobik if the guy could be the hooligan. Sobik replies and confirms that the man is the hooligan. The guy playfully laughs and says, come on, a hooligan. It saddens me when you say it like that. The 10th sister is getting tired of this guy's nonsense and calls him Baldy and tells him that she was thinking of pushing him initially but decided not to and asks him to go on his way, saying that she doesn't want to flip a table full of such delicacies, and tells him that he don't have to lose his life and it would be best for both sides if he just left. With a cocky smile, the guy says, what nonsense is this? Lose my life. He casually lifts his hand to tap Sobik's shoulder and tells her that he can't believe he's hearing those words from a brat like her, and asks Sobik if she won't tell her new friend what a scary person he is. He presses down on Sobik's shoulder, asking her to tell her friend that she'll be in big trouble if she keeps getting on his nerves. He gives a killer look and tells her to also stop trying to run away because his patience also has limits. This guy is squeezing her shoulder and telling her that if she keeps testing his limits like that, but get interrupted by Gyaka. Gyaka then asks him to stop right there. The guy seems confused and lost for words. So Gyaka tells him that he's in a good mood today and says, I'll count to 10, and if you're gone by then, I'll spare your life. The guy mockingly laughs at Gyaka and asks Gyaka if he's talking to him. Gyaka couldn't care less about anything the guy has to say, and starts counting downwards from 10. The guy gets furious, calls Gyaka a fucking brat and tells him to better start running. The 10th sister, unbothered as fuck, takes a bite from her bread and tells the guy that he'll definitely die. The guy furiously looks at her and asks what she's talking about. Sobik, concerned, looks at her, asks her why she keeps acting cocky and asks her if she haven't heard of Hegia village Gwakyungchul. Kion carelessly responds saying that she's never heard of him and tells both Sobik and the man that it seems like they themselves are the ones who doesn't know who she and Gyaka are. The guy looks at her like a person that's ready to strangle her and asks her who she is for her to be acting so cocky. And with her nonchalant behavior, she says, 5 Peak Stronghold, and tells the man that the bandit sitting over there is the bandit who's good with swords. The guy looks like someone that just saw a ghost. Gyaka gets up, hitting the table hard, as his countdown is now at 2 and the guy is still around. The guy tries to beg Gyaka to wait, but the countdown is already over. The guy couldn't see anything else but a devilish look from Gyaka that's ready to kill. With so much bloodlust from Gyaka, he looks at the guy and says, you're not gone yet, destroying the table in attempt to land a simple kick to the guy. Gyaka destroys the table and lands his kick to the guy's chest, which makes him bleed out instantly from his mouth, after being hit with a single kick. Amidst all the ruckus, there seems to be an elderly man, covered in lots of clothing, watching the entire scene closely. As the guy falls, Gyaka's feet seems to have left a footprint on his body. The observing elder stands at a clear distance to avoid being hit by any of the broken woods from the table and plates, and observes cautiously. The observer stands ready to fight, and begins emanating aura from his entire body. Still furious from the other guy's disrespect towards him and the lady, Gyaka feels the presence of this observer and turns to look at him. Gyaka then steps forward and stands properly facing this strange observer. Then they both lock on eye contact. The man's hood falls off, while Gyaka stares furious, ready to kill anyone and anything in his path. The observer also stands bold and mighty, staring at Gyaka like someone that wants to fight. We are taken back to moments before the whole clash with Gyaka, where we see a man that is following this observer and asking him why he came without notice, and also telling him that if he had known in advance, he would have gone to fetch him, because the streets isn't a safe one for him to be walking around without any escorts. The follower is worried and tells the man that he just called for a horse carriage, and that if he can just wait a little while, he'll be able to bring him to the merchant union comfortably. This follower appears to be Sang Muchun, who is the leader of Mansu Merchant Union and a former student of the man he's currently following around. He pauses and wonders why his master came personally, so he runs after this man whose name is Sage Chunjai, elder of the Wuding sect, and calling him master. Sang Muchun stutters as he follows his master around and asks him where he's going. With no response from his master, Sang stops following his master Sage Chunjai for a while because the whole situation seems to be driving him nuts, and he wonders why his master Sage actually come. Sang gets lost in his thoughts because it's a whole different story when a Wuding sect disciple gets involved, and when an elder like his master, Sage Chunjai, gets involved, and if people hear that a Wuding sect elder was called to subdue a mere bandit. Sang's thought is interrupted by some men in an alley, whispering to themselves and asking each other if Sage Chunjai really got involved. One of 3 men seen in a corner gossiping says that he's telling them that it's true that Sage Chunjai actually got involved, and says it's because Sang Muchun got scared after what the 5-peak stronghold did to Li Muryong in just one hit. And one of the 3 is still confused as to why an elder from the Wuding sect would get involved. And all of them seems to come to a conclusion that Sang Muchun must be at loss since he can't even take care of just one bandit. But one of them thinks it's impressive that Sang Muchun managed to get an elder involved because he didn't think the Mansu Merchant Union was that influential. One amongst the 3 laughs at the statement the other guy just made and says, "Impressive my ass," and tells them that Sang Muchun is an external disciple of the Wuding sect, and Sage Chunjai is Sangchi's master. The 3rd guy also laughs because it seems that they've caught on to the fact that Sang Muchun is behind them and listening in on their gossip. So he says, so he got scared of a young bandit and tailed to his master. He always acts so haughty, but look at his pathetic state now. Sang is really pissed after listening in on the gossip and calls those 3 gossipers bastards. But his master, who is just few steps ahead of him, could hear him call them bastards, and tells him that he can't believe that someone like him is letting marketplace gossip affect him. Master Sage gives Sang the side eye, telling him that he still has lots to learn, which frightens Sang, and he apologizes immediately. This also makes Master Sage give Sang an involuntary training order to Sang, which is to go into isolated training after the whole incident is over and train his mind and body, which Sage accepts without a single hesitation. We are taken back to the present where Master Sage Chunjai is observing Jiaka before the kick. In attempt to land a simple kick to the guy, Jiaka destroys the table and lands his kick to the guy's chest, which makes him bleed out instantly from his mouth, just from being hit with a single kick. Amidst all the ruckus, there seems to be an elderly man, covered in lots of clothing, watching the entire scene closely. As the guy falls, Jiaka's feet seems to have left a massive footprint on his body. The Master Sage Chunjai stands at a clear distance to avoid being hit by any of the broken woods from the table and plates, and observes cautiously. Master Sage Chunjai stands ready to fight, and begins emanating massive amount of aura from his entire body. Still furious from the other guy's disrespect towards him and the lady, Jiaka feels the presence of Master Sage Chunjai and turns to look at him. Jiaka then steps forward, and stands properly facing this strange Master Sage Chunjai. Then they both lock on eye contact. Sage Chunjai's hood falls off, while Jiaka stares furious, ready to kill anyone and anything in his path. Sage Chunjai is also standing bold and mighty, staring at Jiaka like someone that's ready to kill. Everyone's attention is brought to where Jiaka and Master Sage Chunjai is, due to the loud noise caused from Jiaka's kick, which broke a hole in the wall of the restaurant. Sang Muchun quickly rushes to where the loud noise came from, asking his master if he's alright, but is taken aback on observing the scene. He instantly recognizes Jiaka as a member of the 5-peak stronghold, and wonders why he's there. He stares at Jiaka, and notes that Jiaka's vibe is a little different, and that hair color isn't common around this area. At this point, he realizes that Jiaka is the young bandit that has been causing him problems, and rushes to his master shouting, "Master, master, that's him." The master don't seem happy about this and tells Sang Muchun to stop making a fuss. Then the master puts his hood back up, turns and walks away, telling Sang Muchun that he was thinking of catching a breather here, but the streets don't seem too safe, and tells him that since he already has the horse carriage prepared, he'd like to head back now. But Sang Muchun can't believe that his master would want to leave Jiaka and head back without doing anything. As Sage Chunjai walks away, Jiaka stares wary of him, because he feels an ominous energy around him. Jiaka's attention is taken away from Sage Chunjai as Kion shouts, "Oh my gosh, how could you destroy everything here?" and tells him that the chief told them not to create any trouble so they could keep up a good reputation, and adds that he shouldn't have gone this far because the repairs will cost a lot. But Jiaka casually tells her that the guy angered him first and reminds her that he also gave the guy 10 seconds to run. Kion starts acting suspicious and tells Jiaka that it's fine. She starts yelling at Jiaka that he should have avoided hitting their dining table. Now she's hungry and asks him what they will all do now, and adds that he also completely destroyed the restaurant. that even if they paid the repair fees, she doubts that the restaurant's owner would want to serve them again. Jiaka cracks his fingers in preparation to go beat whoever won't serve them, but he's instantly stopped by the 10th sister who reminds him that they need to maintain a good reputation. Jiaka apologizes to her and tells her that the guy was way weaker than he thought, and he didn't think the guy would fly off with a single hit. Kion looks at the guy passed out cold on the floor, like a lifeless man, and tells Jiaka that it would be stranger if the guy didn't end up like that after taking that kick from him. She then tells Jiaka that she doesn't know what to do anymore and shows him all the money they have left and tells him that fortunately they should still have some money left for rice soup after they pay the repair fees. And the unfortunate part is that they won't have any money left to buy clothes for Sobik, and says that Sobik was all excited because she could finally dress up like a bandit. But Sobik tries to tell Jiaka that it's not true and that she never said anything like that. It seems like the 10th sister has something planned. So she covers Sobik's mouth and gives a fake smile, and tries to emotionally blackmail Jiaka by telling him that it's okay and that they would buy Sobik's clothes some other time. Jiaka is sad to hear this and doesn't want that to be the case. So he suggests that they skip food and buy Sobik's clothes instead. Kion definitely has something up her sleeves. She tells Jiaka that the money wouldn't still be enough if they did that. So she says, well, if you're really sorry about it, then I think you can start by listening to a request of mine. Jiaka ignorantly shouts, all right, tell me what it is, I'll do it for sure. Then she smiles because she has got Jiaka hooked, just as she wanted, and tells him that he mustn't go back on those words of his. She instantly puts up a bright face and tells Jiaka that he'll have to teach martial arts herself and Sobi. At the Mansu Merchant Union, Sang is telling his master Sage that the boy from just now is the bandit that he's been telling him about, and the master tells Sang that he knows. But this confuses Sang, so he asks his master why he didn't get rid of Jiaka back there and adds that if Jiaka isn't around anymore, then it'd be so easy to take care of the Five Peak Stronghold. The master responds asking him if it's correct that there are rumors that Jiaka is the destroying demon lord disciple, and Sang replies that it's true, and adds that the reason why the Five Peak Stronghold was recognized as Green Forest quickly is because Jiaka is exceptionally strong for his age. Master Sage tells him that the rumor is probably not the case. He then proceeds to say that if the destroying demon lord had an exceptionally strong disciple, rumors would have spread long ago. And since the destroying demon lord likes to boast, there's no way he'd keep an exceptional disciple hidden. He grinds his teeth and says that he's starting to think he made a good choice by coming to the Henan province. Staring at a small wood on his hand, he says, to think I'd meet a martial arts genius in a place like this. On this wood that he keeps staring at, great fortune is carved boldly on it. So he makes a final statement, this is auspicious. 3 days ago at the Huguang province, Wuding Mountain, we see an elderly man that's being escorted by 3 young ladies. Carrying a bottle of wine is present to meet someone inside, playing with his beards. The elderly man, who seems to be an unwanted guest, then says to a man in front of him that the scenery is always beautiful no matter how many times he sees it, and that even within Wuding Mountain, there are only a handful of scenic views. He then proceeds to say that he has brought some precious Longjing tea from Westlake as a gift, and says that he only came because he remembered the man enjoys tea. This elderly man's name is Sage Tiho, the leader of Wuding sect. The other man who is being visited is Sage Chunjai, an elder in the Wuding sect and a martial master. Sage Chunjai don't seem impressed with the gift and says, Longjing tea, that's a precious tea that's hard to come by, isn't it? This whole time Sage Chunjai had his back turned at his visitors, now turns his head and says, the fact that you brought something so precious here means that you have something to tell me, right? Sage Tiho giggles and asks if he was that obvious. They both settle down and pour some tea to drink together. As they drink, Sage Tiho begins to explain to him his reasons for coming, which is because the merchants are having a huge headache, and that's because there's too many bandits swarming in a place called Five Peak Stronghold, and that the recent movements from the Green Forest aren't to be taken lightly as well. Sage Chunjai then says that if Green Forest is involved in this, then it would make things a little too troublesome. Sage Tiho then tells him that that's exactly the case, because if they don't have any justifications, they can't do anything. So Sage Tiho tells the elder that, however things may seem, a merchant union leader in that vicinity seems to be his disciple, and he's the one who brought this tea as well. Sage Tiho proceeds to tell Sage Chunjai that they could get justification if he sends one of his disciples to protect the peace of Henan province, and his other disciple, the merchant leader who requested for help, then that would be enough justification to interfere. Sage Chunjai then asks him if he's requesting that they keep Green Forest in check. Sage Tiho responds saying, yes, and asks him if he remembers how the demonic cult's Luna Fairy was a threat to the Murim in the past. He proceeds to say that after that incident, he felt like there was a need for the Orthodox Alliance to become stronger. He reminds Sage Chunjai of how the Lunar Fairy tried to use her horrifying martial arts to take over the entire Murim, No, the entire central plane. Although the Sword Emperor and the moon-splitting swordsman protected the Murim by a close shave, we can no longer rely on their strength anymore. And proceeds to say that no one can guarantee that the Murim will not face another threat like her, and it makes him feel uneasy because he doesn't know how long the peace will last. While saying all these, he looks worried and says that the unorthodox sect are also no exception in being a threat to the Murim. So he begins to explain how numerous men have fallen by the hands of the Green Forest Commander-Chief, Heaven-Destroying Lord, and says that he personally thinks no one in their current Murim can stand up to him. Sage Chun-Jai is starting to understand what Tiho is saying, and says, before they can become support to the heaven-destroying demon lord, you want me to uproot this new growing stronghold in the Henan province, completely Sage Tiho tells him that's right, and says to him that the disciples he teach will always bring about a good reputation to the Wuding sect, and this would also become another chance to improve the Wuding sect reputation. And since Wuding sect influence would expand to Henan province, this would really be killing two birds with one stone. Sage Tiho pours Chun-Jai a cup of tea. Chun-Jai tries to reflect on the issue before giving his response and takes a sip from his tea, and finally accepts to take care of the situation but adds a condition. Slams his teacup on the table and takes a deep breath before asking the leader of the Wuding sect, Sage Tiho, to please allow him be the one to personally handle the subjugation of the Five Peak stronghold. Sage Tiho is confused and asks him why he would want to do that. Chun-Jai begins to narrate to Sage Tiho that as he has managed the Wuding mountain for the last 10 years, he has gone through countless rites and have seen a lot of divinations. But strangely, whenever he tries to see his own, he has never seen fortune before, and has also never seen misfortune before, and tells him that he thinks it's fate for himself to live a life without ups and downs. But the fortune he had this morning was different. Great fortune, that's the fortune he got. And finally says that he's sure this is an opportunity presented by the great teacher. Back at the present, Master Sage Chun-Jai is in his thoughts. The Five-Peak Mountain bandit that's good with swords. Although I don't believe the nonsensical rumor that he's the destroying demon lord disciple, he's definitely got a different energy around him. If I raise him as Wuding sect disciple, he could become the world's strongest swordsman. No, he would become Wuding Sword Supreme. If that happens, Wuding sect influence would pierce through the heavens. At Five Peak Stronghold, new buildings are being constructed, and the workers are taking their jobs seriously. A bandit then approached Chief Pung Yonsho, the leader of the Five Peak Stronghold, with reports that the construction has been complete. Chief Pong is impressed. Feeling proud of how far he has come, he stares at the newly constructed building and announces, "This is the Five Peak Stronghold's Harmony Pavilion." As things in the Five Peak Stronghold grew quickly, Debil's stronghold helped them construct additional buildings to match their growth. In order to fill up those new buildings, Chief Pung Yonsho recruited new carpenters, advisors, and their families. Everyone, including the families of the workers, are pleased with the newly built Harmony Pavilion, and the kids are excited and rushes to get a closer look at the building. Chief Pung Yonsho observes as the children run past him and gets lost in thoughts. Second brother, Tak, approaches him, calls him chief, and asks him why he looks so immense in his emotions. He snaps out of it and greets Tak, and tells Tak that he's just reminded of the past when he sees such lively scenes. And they about to start talking about what past Chief Pung is talking about. Someone runs towards them, shouting Chief. Tak calls this person Hyundo, and asks him why him ran towards them so frantically. While Hyundo is trying to catch his breath, he asks them if they've seen Jaka, and tells them that he heard that Jaka is teaching Sobik and 10th sister Kion martial arts, so he wanted to ask him too but didn't see him around at all. Tak with a smug face tells Hyundo that he's a step late, and that Jaka and the girls went into the forest just now. Hyundo yells that how could they leave without him, and Tak tells him to hurry up if he wants to catch them. Inside the forest, Jaka tells the girls that what they'll be learning this time would be the breathing method, and tells them they must first memorize 300 words. He closes his eyes and starts his breathing method, and says to them, those who want to obtain the 9 heavens energy, you must first conquer your own heart, and says, the 9 heavens energy isn't tangible nor is it void. Jaka is interrupted by the Kion, who seems to have given up without even starting. Kion and Sobik tells Jaka that it's too hard, and they don't think they can even memorize 100 words. Jaka looks at them confused because he doesn't think it's hard, and casually tells them that they'll be able to do it if they practice for 10 years. And they both tell him that it's easy for him to say. Jaka pauses before telling them to just close their eyes and follow him slowly, and promises them that it'll get easier bit by bit. They are both feeling slightly motivated and agree to do as he said. So he instructs them step by step. So he says, close your eyes, focus on your breathing. He then opens one eye to check if they're doing all right, and he's instantly amazed to see that both of them are totally focused. This makes Jaka happy because it's his first time seeing others train like this. Kion and Sobik seems very focused with the training. Jiaka joins them and says it's the feeling of hearing something that used to be vague clearly now, and dives into the meditation. The breathing method training that they started at noon has lasted till dawn. Kion is finally done and wakes up and is about to ask Jiaka if they should all head back as she opens her eyes. She is stunned to see Jiaka fully immersed in meditation, and her eyes are instantly glued, even when Sobik tries to call her. So she tells Sobik to be quiet and watch Jiaka. So they both sit and watch Jiaka as his yang energy covers his entire body. His whole body levitates, while he is all up deep in training in his mind. Jiaka stands with a sword in his hand and begins to train in the Heavenly Inquisition technique. But Jiaka seems stuck and wonders when he'll be able to get deeper understanding of the technique. And he hears a voice, which scares him. Voice then tells him to calm down and focus only on the voice of his heart. Jiaka exclaims, "Who is it?" The Jewett spirit that was with him during his 10 years of being locked up in that storage house, taking Jiaka physical appearance. The spirit appears beside him and begins practicing the sword technique with him. Jiaka looks at it and remembers it is the little boy in the mirror that taught him both the 9 Heavens art and Heavenly Inquisition technique. Now, the spirit tells Jiaka to get ready, and they both practice the sword move together, performing different, beautiful moves. Jiaka says to the spirit, "I am moving as if we are originally one single body." The concept that once seemed vague are being pieced together one by one. Outside of Jiaka's mind, Kion and Sobik are lost for words. Jiaka's yang energy grows stronger, and the yang energy forms cherry blossom flowers that float around his head and bloom while still floating round his head, which is all such a beautiful sight to behold. Jiaka is levitated. Yang energy covers his entire body and forms flowers that bloom. About done with his training, he opens his eyes and is met with a fascinating glare from the girls. The girls are dumbfounded. The expression on their faces makes Jiaka ask them what's wrong and if there's something on his face, and he is told that there was a light around his body just now. They both rush towards him with excitement, telling him that he's so amazing, and asks him if they'll also be able to do that if they continued training. Jiaka stares in shock and puts them aside as he tells them to stop making a big deal out of this, and says to them, "You are to recite these words in the morning and at night while practicing your breathing from now on. Is that clear?" And they both excitedly shout yes. Training is over for the day, and they all head back while the girls couldn't stop talking. As they arrive the stronghold, Kion sees the chief standing outside, notices that he's the only one there. So she says, "We're back. Is the pavilion's construction complete?" But the chief seems worried about something and didn't say a word. Jiaka calls him, but he still gave no response. Jiaka then asks him where everyone went, and now he finally responds and says, "Jiaka, what should we do?" He looks so scared and says to Jiaka that Sage Chunjai is coming to attack the 5-peak stronghold. Inside the stronghold, there are few bandits left, and one of them asks if everyone else has run away. Jiaka stands all by himself, lost in his thoughts, while Chief Poon announces to all present that the Mansu Merchant Union has gotten Sage Chunjai involved, and that they are on their way to attack. So he asks them all what to do. Fourth brother Imdao tells the chief that the Merchant Union and Sage Chunjai will arrive by morning, and asks if it wouldn't be best to take this time and escape somewhere else. The chief pauses, and shamefully gathers courage to ask Shim Yonggak to let everyone know if he has any good idea, because Shim is so full of himself. But Shim asks them if they think such tricks would work on someone like Sage Chunjai. So Tak shouts at him, asking him what they're supposed to do if that's the case. Shim calmly asks Tak if he truly do not understand the situation, and say that the 5-peak stronghold is done for. He explains to them that Sage Chunjai is an elder of the Wuding sect, and he's the strongest of the Wuding sect, and was even the strongest in Hubei at one point in time, and adds that each and every one of Sage Chunjai's disciples is also incredibly powerful. So he asks them if they really want to go up against such a monster, and tells them to just pray to at least come out with their neck intact if they decide to fight. Someone amongst them asks, "What should we do now?" Shim replies, saying that there is nothing else that can be done and we should all run. Another person asks, "Where to?" And Shim responds that it doesn't matter and everyone should just go wherever they can. Chief Poon angrily bangs the armrest of his chair and shouts for everyone to be quiet, and asks Jiaka what he thinks. Everyone stares anxiously, waiting for his response. Jiaka takes a deep breath, and finally says that he don't know. They are all shocked to hear this. Shim uses this opportunity to shout that if they all stayed there, that they'll all die helplessly. He starts walking away and says that he's going, because he don't plan on waiting for his death here. So many others contemplate for a while, and decide that it's best to also leave. As they hurry out, they murmur, "I don't want to die here. Sage Chunjai is coming. We should escape right now." The 9th brother notices that Cholson isn't coming along with him, so he pauses and asks Cholson why he isn't coming with the rest of them. Cholson pauses, takes a deep breath, and turns back to look at Kion and Sobik. They both seem worried and scared, and Sobik was about crying, but Kion comforts her. and tells her that it's okay and she shouldn't worry. Chulson finally tells the ninth brother that he's not going. The ninth brother yells at him saying, "Are you kidding me? Have you gone mad? Do you want to die for a woman?" Chulson tells him that he's sorry and no matter what he says, he's staying. So the ninth brother vexfully says to Chulson that there is no point in talking to him and leaves. And now, what's left of the stronghold are the original 7 sworn brothers, Chulson, and the girls. Chief Poong then thanks his sworn brothers and the rest for staying behind. He ponders for a while because he thinks it's logical for all of them to have also run with the rest, and remembers that they have a new pavilion, a newly constructed house, and there are also people who would return to the 5-peak stronghold. Angered, he clenches his fist and bangs the arm rest again, which brought everyone's attention to him. A calm gust of wind blows in through a window in the building, carrying some leaves around, which catches Jaka's attention. He holds one in his palm, and remembers something vital, so he squeezes his palm and walks forward towards the chief, and calls the chief in, asks the chief if the swordmaster sage Chun Jai can cut a person with a leaf. Few hours later, it's night already, and Chief Poong is standing outside alone, in front of a fence he just finished fixing. He is all sweaty and takes a deep breath. We are taken back to hours before, where Jaka asked Hunam if Sage Chun Jai can cut a person with a leaf. Hunam thinks on it because he thinks there's no way a human can do that, and tells Jaka that he doesn't think Sage Chun Jai is that strong. Then Jaka says that if Sage is not that strong, wouldn't it be possible to fight him? Everyone turns to look at Jaka after that bold statement, and Chief Hunam asked him if he's serious. The chief thinks this might work, because if it's Jaka that fights, he might be able to hold Sage in position for a moment and then they can all attack together in that moment, but instantly gets reminded of Shim's talk that they will all die and this is the end for the 5-peak stronghold, and he tries to imagine a fight between Jaka and Sage, but in his imagination, Sage is way too strong for Jaka and Jaka is easily defeated. Sad, he tries to think of something, and asked himself if the only way to protect the stronghold is to put those children in a life or death situation, and thinks deeper if that really is the only way. Chief Poong continues to battle with his mind what to actually do, and says to himself, "It's been 5 years since we came here. This is going to be the hardest decision the chief has ever made in his life." He ponders on everything that has happened so far, especially this year. We got a lot more new members and even built the luxurious Harmony Pavilion. There were a lot of good things that happened, and says to everyone that this much is good enough. They all seem surprised at his statement and asked him to not say things like that because they are sure Jaka can resolve the situation in no time, and tells him not to worry much about it. But he responds saying, no, that they can't always rely on Jaka, and this person that they are thinking to let Jaka fight is an elder from the 10 Great Sect, and he is probably way stronger than any one of them can imagine. He proceeds to say that he can't risk a gamble that will put them in a life or death situation, and that he believes everything Shim Yonggak said to be correct. We don't have any chances at all. The moment to finally make his decision has come and he says, as of this moment, the 5-peak stronghold will be disbanded. We are taking back to hours after, where he stands in front of the fence and reflects on his decision. He looks at his blistered palm and wonders to why he's unable to leave, even though he knows it's the only wise thing to do. Still lost in his thoughts, the fence he just put up starts to fall apart. When he notices, the log was already about to crush him and so he shouts, and someone amidst the dust calls him chief and says, "Are you unable to do a thing since you're used to always asking others to do the work?" The chief is surprised that someone still stayed behind, and holding on to the log of wood that was about to crush him. This person is Tak, second sworn brother, so Tak Go Young asks him with a smirk face if he really think they'd leave. The chief turns to the other parts of the fence and sees Hyungdo, Imdal, Keon, Sanchung, Sabong, Cholson, even Sobik, and Jaka are all holding on to the rest of the fence's logs that might have crushed him. Jaka asks him if he's okay. The chief is as grateful as he's shocked to see that they are all still around. One of them asks him what he's still doing around after telling them that they are disbanded. Imdal adds, "Didn't we all decide that if we're going to die, we'll die together?" Keon is concerned and asks the chief if he's okay and didn't get hurt. Tak then gives the chief his hand to help him get up, and asks him if he has eaten, as the chief smiles and says, "All of you seriously, you guys are so disobedient." He takes Tak's hand and get up. Few minutes later, they all work together to fix the fence, and start a fire after the fence has been fixed. Tak is glad that they still had some materials left to put up the second fence, and Imdal is also glad because with this, they should be able to relax a little. The chief then suggests that they all take turns on guard duty, because even though Sage Chun Jai and the Merchant Union are expected to arrive by morning, they might also launch a surprise attack. And they all agreed. Tak Gamyang, who used to live in a temple, Ma Hyundo, who is a thief that escaped from jail, Hyeon Dal, who used to be a petty thief, Gok Sanchung, and Jang Sabong, who used to be slash and burn farmers. The chief looks at all of them and says to himself, they trusted me even though I'm an insignificant person. This is a family that I'm thankful for, and says out loud that he thinks he's pretty lucky. Tak laughs with him and asks him if he's only just realizing that now. Keon gets up and calls to the chief, and he asked her what's the matter. So she says, now that we've decided to stick together whether we live or die, how about you stop being petty and make us your sworn family too? The chief didn't think too much about it and asks all three of them, Chulson, Sobek, and Keon, do you guys want that too? Chulson and Sobek are surprised that he asked, and the both immediately says yes. The chief thinks it's a good idea, and asks him sworn brothers what they think, and they are all okay with it. The chief acknowledges them as new members of the family and gives them new rankings, because the previous 9th member was amongst those who ran away. Chulsan still remains number 8. Keon is the new number 9, while Sobek is now number 10. They all happily accept each other, and Chief Poon tells them, he'll be counting on all of you from now on, my family. And Jaka is happy to have new members in the family. If there are any bandits that knew of formalities, it might be from imitating the oath of the 3 gardens from the 3 kingdoms. Even so, though they might not be educated, they have lacked nothing. It is morning. At the Mansu Merchant Union, Sage Chunjai still holds on to his fortune, which reads, Great Fortune. Sage Chunjai leads the Merchant Union leader and its warriors to battle. Let's go. If you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe. It's morning. At the 5 Peak Stronghold, Jaka wakes up early and quietly steps outside, breathes in fresh air, with a sword in his hand. He couldn't sleep, even though he didn't show it in front of others. He's actually worried. He concentrates on his breathing and wonders if he'll be able to win against someone like Sage Chunjai, but cancels his negative thought because he so wants that this newfound family of his can stay together. And at that moment, he notices someone's presence behind him. Jaka is spooked by an unknown presence behind him, and immediately turns with a heavy slash following through. But he's shocked to see that it's the chief, and stops his sword on time. Chief Poon fearfully laughs, telling Jaka to calm down, that it's just him. Jaka then tells the chief that he scared him and asks the chief if he was going to stand guard. And he tells Jaka that he's correct and that he decided to let the others sleep for a while, but asks Jaka why he isn't sleeping. Jaka tries to play it off and lies that he don't sleep a lot. Kingdom suspects a lie, but Jaka proceeds to tell him that he's okay and don't feel tired at all. While Hinam prepares to give Jaka a surprise attack, he strikes unexpectedly and Jaka was able to block it, and shouts Chief. Then the chief asks Jaka if he would duel to help loosen up his muscles. Jaka is shocked at first, but happily accepts. They begin sparring, and Hinam seems pleased to be able to help Jaka loosen his muscles. Jaka seems to be having fun. Hinam also gives his best. While they clash swords, Hinam apologizes to Jaka, which make Jaka confused and asks him why he's apologizing. So he responds saying, it feels like I'm relying on you who's the youngest every time. And Jaka responds, come on, we are brothers, aren't we? And at that moment, the Mansu Merchant Union arrives and announces, 5 Peak Stronghold, listen up. With their warriors marching forward, Chief Poong is surprised as to how fast they got here. Sage Chunjai stares and ready for battle. And standing in front of Sage Chunjai is the Mansu Merchant Union leader, Sang Mucheng. Shouting at the 5 Peak Stronghold, he asked them to give up the stronghold now, and if they don't, then he would have no choice than to spill blood. Chief Poong Yoncho listens in anger, and because he doesn't think he can just let Jaka carry all the burden, he hops forward onto the top of the fence, while Jaka tries to call him back. But he smiles down at Jaka and says, the one who stands in front ought to be the chief, right? As he turns to look at the Merchant Union, he is wowed by how many of them came. But he no longer fears anything. With a cheeky smile on the Mansu Merchant Union leader's face, he asks Poong if he's the chief and tells him not to put up any futile resistance. Chief Poong confidently laughs and calls Sang's words fucking bullshit. He begins to mock Sang Muchen, calling him a pathetic fool, and says, is it true that you went to the Wuding sect to beg and cry for Sage Chunjai to come? And asks him if he thinks they would run away because he went and brought some senile old man, and calls them all at the merchant group morons, and asks Sage if he thinks if him and his merchant group can trick them. The chief's words is really getting to Sang, and Sang calls the chief a bastard, but the chief still continues talking and tells Sage that even if they went and brought someone stronger than Sage Chunjai, that it still won't faze them. Jaka smiles as he listens to Chief Poong talk. Sage Chunjai tells Sang that he already taught him to not get agitated about what other people say, but Sang tell him that he couldn't let such disrespectful speech sully his good name. Sage at that moment looks at Chief Poong, makes an ultrasonic vibration from his mouth, which Jaka could feel all the way from the other side of the fence. But Chief Poong that is standing on top of the fence didn't feel the vibration, and Jaka quickly tries to warn him to get away from there because he knows what's coming. Still ignorant, the ultrasonic wave from Sage Chun-Jai hits the fence and shatters it, sending the chief flying. The chief, ignorant as to what just happened, falling to his death. Sage Chun-Jai immediately jumps to finish him off before he hits the ground, and Chief Pung shouts for his dear life. The moment Pung Yoncho fell into danger, the fear and pressure Yon Jaka felt disappeared like dust. He simply wanted to protect his chief. With a single and powerful slash to the winds, Jaka was able to push Sage Chun-Jai back from killing Pung Yoncho. A huge explosion occurs from the clash of Jaka's slash and Sage Chun-Jai's ultrasonic sound wave. Sage Chun-Jai retreats to a safe distance and commends Jaka's strength, saying, "What incredible power!" And from amidst the blast, Sage is shocked to see Jaka coming from above to strike him. But he's able to block Jaka's attack on time. Their swords clash with great power from both sides, but Sage adds more strength to his movements, which pushes Jaka away, sending him flying. But he lands safely with a nice pose. Sage is baffled, and Jaka uses his sword as support to stand up, and wonders what kind of person Sage Chun-Jai is because he definitely felt a strong power from that clash their swords had. However, Jaka thinks that he is definitely stronger than Sage.
This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.